Hi, my name is Liat Berdugo. I am an interdisciplinary artist working in video and new media. I teach at the University of San Francisco, and I'm an American and an Israeli citizen. When I was living in Tel Aviv in 2013, I met the director of the B'Tselem Camera Project, an initiative that began in 2007 and distributes video cameras to Palestinians living in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza, in an effort to combat human rights violations of the Israeli occupation through footage. Today, there are around 200 B'Tselem issued cameras in the field, and B'Tselem has amassed an archive of over 4,500 hours of raw footage, only a fraction of which are available online. And one thing that distinguishes the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the freedom to record. Israeli law is more lenient on recording in public than the US state of Massachusetts. This is a video still from the first citizen recorded video that B'Tselem published. An Israeli settler who you see here bullies the Palestinian videographer, who's a 16-year-old girl, by calling her sharmuta or whore 9 times in a hissing, menacing tone. And this video circulated widely within Israeli and international media outlets. B'Tselem's camera director at the time said that the footage derived its power from its point of view, saying, quote, "The video puts you in the Palestinians' shoes instead of the shoes of the Israeli or foreign cameraman, which is how you usually see what goes on in the occupation." Most of the footage in the archive follows this first-person boots-on-the-ground perspective. For example, here is a video still from a 2008 video in which a group of 4 masked Israeli settlers attacks Palestinian settlers with clubs. Here's a Jewish Israeli settler assaulting a B'Tselem volunteer, who then falls to the ground and clutches his head. One of his fellow Palestinians picks up his camera and continues filming. Or here, the videographer captures a night raid on his home in the West Bank by Israeli soldiers who routinely search homes in order to make their presence felt. And 2 key questions in my research have been, what kind of images spark social change, and what kinds of images demand justice? Because just as in the US, where police violence against Black and brown bodies is often recorded, in Israel-Palestine, social change is not as simple as image production. In recent years, citizen media have been elevated not as visual evidence in and of themselves, but as material for advanced visual or forensic investigations by firms like Forensic Architecture, Bellingcat, and New York Times Visual Investigations. Such investigations amalgamate many citizen recorded videos to create a final video, which is forensically abstracted. And I want to note here that abstraction has historically been the opposite of B'Tselem's approach to its human rights work, which has focused on details, dates, names, times, places, and unedited original video footage, which B'Tselem says shows a direct experience of the Israeli occupation in a way that cannot be ignored. But B'Tselem became frustrated by the lack of impact of its raw videos. So in 2010, they partnered with Forensic Architecture to investigate the death of a Palestinian named Bassem Ibrahim Abu Rama, who was protesting near the separation wall in Bilin when an Israeli soldier fired a tear gas canister at him from a very close range, killing him. Here, Forensic Architecture's recreation of the scene. Here is their recreation of the scene. So Israeli soldiers are those red figures in the foreground, and the Palestinian man, Abu Rama, is the tiny green figure on the other side of the wall. And that yellow emanation from him is a mapping of which Israeli soldier could have fired the fatal shot. And I want you to notice in this abstract rendering is that Abu Rama's image is replaced with an aestheticized abstraction devoid of his human attributes. So he becomes a mere silhouette of the person he once was. So in other words, he is killed once by the Israeli munition and again by abstraction, which strips away his details. And the uncanniest use of abstracted bodies in forensic architecture's analyses is this one from 2018, their analysis of the killing of Luai, Kahil, and Amir Al-Nimra, 2 Palestinian teenagers who were sitting on a rooftop in Gaza when they were killed by an Israeli missile strike. Before they were killed, they took a selfie that became the last photograph of them alive. Forensic architecture used this photograph together with multiple other videos to recreate the teenagers and the building in computer graphics, or CG. So you can see the boys here are shown in shades of whites and grays like ghosts. But then the boy's selfie is reinscribed onto the rendering in their video, in forensic architecture's video, aligning their likeness with their CG bodies. And the resultant image vibrates between the uncanny valley of CG and the messy representations of the world of the living, a vibration that, if anything, highlights the disconnection between the two. When actual Palestinian bodies are present or shown in forensic architecture videos, they are often instrumentalized to synchronize multiple videos, like a clap. So the real bodies of Palestinians appear only in service to forensic analysis. And I argue we should remain wary of this kind of abstraction for 2 important reasons. The first is that it homogenizes Palestinian bodies, meaning it treats them all the same. And the second is that it erases them, right? Removing away their details and treating them like ghosts almost. So homogenization and erasure are 2 key tactics that the Israeli militarized occupation uses to discredit and dehumanize Palestinians and to continue an oppressive regime of violence. So that's one of the reasons we have to be really wary of this. And I want to end this very short talk by saying that even though I think we should be wary of forensic abstraction, I do see some utility or some good in it. And here I'm thinking of the 2 types of injustice defined by legal scholar Nancy Fraser. The first is ordinary political misrepresentation. Okay, these are injustices in which a civil society deny people the opportunity to participate in decision-making. So for instance, a citizen is denied a fair trial under law. The second kind is meta-political injustice. And this is when a civil society wrongly draws the boundary of citizenship itself. So when women were denied the right to vote, for instance, they suffered meta-political injustice. They were not counted as full citizens. And crucially, this kind of injustice is a higher order. It's meta-political. And it's perpetrated by an act of misframing persons outside the edges of the political, as if sort of pushing them outside the boundaries of a frame or a photograph. So throughout the course of B'Tselem's history, it had operated under the assumption that Palestinians were victims of the first kind of injustice, okay, of ordinary political misrepresentation. So they were denied fair access to file their grievances and seek judicial redress in Israeli courts. And B'Tselem sought to remedy this by the use of detailed videos as evidence in judicial legislation. But of course, this did not work. Palestinians have not merely been denied representation, they have been misframed as non-citizens, or they've been made ungrievable, to use Judith Butler's terms. No amount of videos can make this evident. The evidence instead lies in the boundaries of the video frame. And this concept requires generalization, abstraction, and higher order thinking. And this is the kind of injustice that forensic abstraction has the potential to lay bare. So I'm going to end there for now. This talk is a very, very tiny excerpt from my new book, The Weaponized Camera in the Middle East, which was published this year by Bloomsbury and IB Tauris. The book is more broadly about the effort to secure political justice by using citizen videography in the Middle East. And I originally developed the proposal for this book at Design Incubation's fellowship program. So a big thank you to Design Incubation and to you for watching. And I look forward to the live discussion we'll have in the colloquium. Thank you.